Good afternoon, second grade. Today we're going to continue reading Matilda, and we are on chapter, I believe it's 13. And the chapter we're going to be reading is called The Weekly Test. Where we left off was we were reading the chapter on Lavender and how she planned on tricking the Trunchbull by putting a newt in her water jug. So I'm kind of hoping it talks about what's going to happen with the water jug and the newt. So this is called the weekly test. At 2 o'clock sharp, the class gathered, including Miss Honey, who noted that the jug of water and the glass were in their proper place. Then she took up a position standing right at the back. Everyone waited. Suddenly, in marched a gigantic figure of the head mistress in her belted smock and green breeches. "Good morning, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, hands on hips, glaring at the small boys and girls who sat nervously at their desks in front of her. "Not a very pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, and though she were looking at something a dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are!" Everyone had the sense to stay silent. "It makes me vomit," she went on, "to think that I'm going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I'm going to have to expel as many of you as possible as soon as possible to save myself from going around the bend." She paused and snorted several times. It was a curious sound. You can hear the same sort of thing if you walk through a riding stable when the horses are being fed, I suppose. "I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you you're wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you the opposite, and you better believe me. Stand up, everybody." They all got up very quickly to their feet. "Now, put your hands out in front of you. And as I walk past, I want you to turn them over so I can see if they are clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began a slow march along the rows of desks, inspecting the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," the boy said. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," the boy said. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud she nearly blew the little boy out of the window. "That's it," Nigel said, "unless you want my middle name as well." He was a brave little one. The one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gorgon monster who towered above him. "I do not want your middle name, you blister," the Gorgon bellowed. "What is my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now then, let's try again. What is your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you wash them?" Well, let me think," Nigel said. "It's rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday or it could have been the day before." And here is a picture of the Trunchbull looking down onto Nigel. Oops. Sorry, these pages are hard to turn. The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell up as though she was being inflated by a bicycle pump. "I knew it!" she bellowed. "I knew as soon as I saw you that you were nothing but a piece of filth. What is your father's name? A sewage worker? I'm sorry, what is your father's job? A sewage worker?" "He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says we're all covered in bugs anyway that a little bit of extra dirt never hurt anyone." "Well, I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, might I ask, is there baked beans on the front of your shirt?" "We had them for lunch, Miss Trunchbull." "And do you usually put your lunch on the front of your shirt, Nigel? Is that what this famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Well, baked beans are hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You are disgusting," the Trunchbull bellowed. You are a walking germ factory. I do not wish to see any more of you today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." But Miss Trunchbull." "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll make you stand on your head. Now do as you're told." Nigel went. "Now stay where you are, boy, while I test you on your spelling to see if you learned anything at all this past week. And don't turn around when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face on the wall. Now, spell right." "Which one?" Nigel asked. "The thing you do with a pen, or the one that means the opposite of wrong." He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked with him at home on spelling and reading. So here's another picture. I want you to spell the one like you were write with a pen, you little fool. Nigel spelled it correctly, which surprised the Trunchbull. She thought she had given him a very tricky word, one that he wouldn't have learned yet, and she was peeved that he was successful. Then Nigel said, still balancing on one leg and facing the wall, Miss Honey taught us how to spell a very new long word yesterday." "Oh, and what was that?" the Trunchbull asked, being very mean and saying it rather softly. The softer her voice became, the greater the danger. But Nigel didn't know this. "Difficulty," Nigel said. "Everyone in the class can spell difficulty now." "What nonsense," the Trunchbull said. "You're not supposed to learn long words like that until you are at least 8 or 9. And don't try to tell me everybody in the class can spell the word. You are lying, Nigel." "Test someone," Nigel said, taking an awful chance. "Test anyone you like." The Trunchbull's dangerous, glittery eyes roved around the classroom. "You," she said, pointing at the tiny, rather daft little girl called Prudence. "Spell difficulty." Amazingly, Prudence spelled it correctly and without a moment's hesitation. The Trunchbull was properly taken aback. She snorted. "And I suppose Miss Honey wasted the whole one lesson teaching you to spell that one single word." "Oh, no, she didn't," piped up Nigel. "Miss Honey taught it to us in 3 minutes, so we'll never forget it. She teaches us lots of words in 3 minutes." "And what exactly is this magic method, Miss Honey?" asked the headmistress. I'll show you, piped up brave Nigel again, coming to Miss Honey's rescue. Can I put my other foot down and turn around, please, while I show you? You may do neither, snapped the Trunchbull. Stay as you are and show me just the same. All right, said Nigel, wobbling crazily on his one leg. Miss Honey gives us a little song about each word, and we all sing it together, and we learn to spell it in no time. Would you like to hear the song about difficulty? I should be fascinated, the Trunchbull said in a voice. Here it is, Nigel said. Mr. D, Mrs. D, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F, I, Mrs. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y. That spells difficulty. How perfectly ridiculous, snorted the Trunchbull. Why are all these women married? And anyway, you're not meant to teach poetry when you're supposed to be teaching spelling, Miss Honey. But it does teach them some of the harder words wonderfully well, Miss Honey murmured. Don't argue with me, Miss Honey, the headmistress thundered. Just do as you're told. And I shall now test the class on their multiplication tables to see if Miss Honey has taught you anything at all in that direction. The Trunchbull had returned to her place in the front of the class, and her diabolical gaze was moving slowly along the rows of tiny pupils. You, she barked, pointing at the small boy called Rupert in the front row. What is 2 sevens? 16, Rupert answered with a foolish abandonment. The Trunchbull started advancing slow, soft-footed upon Rupert in the manner of a tiger stalking a small deer. Rupert suddenly became aware of the danger signals and quickly tried again. It's 18, he cried. 2 sevens are 18, not 16. You ignorant little slug, the Trunchbull bellowed. You witless weed, you empty-headed hamster, you stupid glob of glue. And now, stationed behind herself, directly behind Rupert, and suddenly she extended a hand the size of a tennis racket and grabbed all of his hair on his head with her fist. Rupert had a lot of golden-colored hair. His mother had thought it was beautiful to behold and took delight in allowing it to grow extra long. The Trunchbull had as great of a dislike for long hair on boys as she had for braids and pigtails on girls, and she was about to show it. She took a firm grip of his long golden tresses or long golden hair with her giant hand. Then, by raising her muscular right arm, she lifted the helpless boy clean out of the chair and held him aloft. Rupert yelled. He twisted, he squirmed, he kicked in the air, and he went on yelling like a stuck pig. And Miss Trunchbull bellowed, 2 sevens are 14! 2 sevens are 14! And I'm not letting you go until you say it! From the back of the class, Miss Honey cried out, Miss Trunchbull, please let him down. You're hurting him. All his hair might come out. So here is a picture of Miss Trunchbull holding him. Okay, we're going to pause here for today, and we'll finish this chapter tomorrow. And when we finish the chapter, remember we're doing a beginning, middle, end. And hopefully on Friday we can do a virtual lesson on what we have learned so far with your Matilda. So I'm hoping you're catching up with all these, and when we meet on our virtual classroom, we can discuss what has been going on in Matilda. See you tomorrow.